So, hello guys. Let us start motion in a straight line. This is lecture 1 and I'm going to teach you from basic to the higher level, right? Now let us start. And I'm going to read every line and every sentence for you and also going to explain you which are important from JE aspect and which are important from board aspect. So this point is just irrelevant, not required at all. So we can skip it. So motion is change in position of an object with time. So what is motion? Like if a body changes its position in certain time, but with a reference point also. It also need a reference point so that we can tell that body is in motion, right? How does position change with time? In this chapter, we shall learn how to describe motion. We develop the concept of velocity and acceleration. We shall confine ourselves to the study of motion of objects along a straight line, also known as rectilinear motion. So yes, motion of objects along a straight line is known as rectilinear motion. Like if there is a what do you call highway, most of the times highway are straight. So when your car when it is moving on this road, if it is moving in a straight path, then that motion will be called as rectilinear motion. Also, in the next chapter, we'll come across the other than rectilinear motion like projectile motion, oblique projectile, horizontal projectile, right? But in this chapter, we'll confine ourselves only to motion in a straight line, right? Let us go. For the case of rectilinear motion, rectilinear motion with uniform acceleration, a set of simple equations can be obtained. Finally, to understand the relative nature of motion, we introduce the concept of relative velocity. So, what is the relative velocity? The relative velocity is a velocity with respect to something. Example, if there is a body A and there is a body B, if this is moving like in this direction and this is moving in this direction, it has some velocity v, this has some velocity u. So now what relative velocity means is that velocity, like if I write velocity v a b, if I write v a b, that means that velocity of a with respect to b means when we are sitting in we are sitting at this point. When we are sitting at this point, then what will be the velocity of a with respect to the point b? This is known as b. VAB. I know I don't have a proper pencil, so it won't look good. Anyhow, let us continue. In our discussion, we shall treat the objects in motion as point objects. So this means that objects, like, we'll be considering any reference point or objects in the motion as a point objects. We won't be considering a truck like this, right? Like this much truck. We won't make it like this. We will just consider it as a point, and we may write t also, right? Any variable, by the way, we can use. In our discussion, this approximation is valid so far as the size of the object is much smaller than the distance it moves in a reasonable duration of time. In a good number of situations in real life, the size of object can be neglected and then they can be considered as a point-like objects without much error. This what do you call it? Once again, point objects, yeah. So when the distance is very large, like when we are considering 1,000 kilometer, 2,000 kilometer, 3,000 kilometer, then if we consider a car movement of a car, then we will neglect the size of the car. But when we are considering only like around 500 meter, if you consider this 500 meter, 500, let's take it 50 meter, right? It will be much smaller. So now if you take a car, so now what you have to do? Now you have to take length of this car also. Like if they ask how much time will it take to, if there's a point over here, right? If there's a restaurant, you can call it. If there is a restaurant over here, if you go from this car and you go like this, then he can ask you if the car is at a distance of 50 meters from our restaurant, then how much time will car take to come to the point B, which is just beside point R. So when the car comes over here, now you have to take how much long car is, because car will also have some length. So they are asking you how much time will it take to for this point of the car to cross the point R. So means you cannot take when it comes 50 meter, the car will come over here, right? So that you don't have to take. When the tail of the car crosses the point R, then you can call it. So how much total distance it has to travel? If car is around 2 meter, then you have to travel a distance of 52 meter, not 50 meter. Very important. Now, without any much error. In kinematics, we study ways to describe motion without going into the causes of motion. What causes the motion described in this chapter and the next chapter forms the subject matter of chapter 5. Position, path length, and displacement. Earlier, you have learned that the motion is change in position of object with time. In order to specify position, we need to use a reference point and a set of axes. It is convenient to choose a rectangular coordinate system consisting of three mutually perpendicular axes labeled as x, y, and z axis. So now what he is telling is that we have to take a reference point. Reference point is very important, right? When you and also to measure the distance of anything, not this. This is a Cartesian plane. In physics, we have a this type of a plane. It's called, you can call it a 3D plane. Okay, sorry. So this is x-axis. This is y-axis. This is y. This is x. But in physics, we have a much greater than that. Physics, we have 3D. So this is I, this is j, the y-axis we call it j cap, and the z-axis we can call it k cap. And this cap is very important. Cap is just used. Maybe you can call it to differentiate. Yeah, just to differentiate. To differentiate from other variables, we use j cap. J cap. Now let us go forward. The point of intersection of these three axes is called origin and serves as reference point. So origin is taken, most of the time origin is taken as a reference point from where the point moves. And sometimes they may ask you find the distance traveled by an object from this point to this point. So they will give you the x and y coordinate of this point, initial point and final point. Then you have to calculate the distance using distance formula, right? The coordinate of x, y, z and describes the motion object, describes the position of the object with time with respect to the coordinate system. To measure time, we position a clock in this system. This coordinate system with clock constitutes a frame of reference. Now, and when or more coordinates of an object changes with time, we say that the object is in motion. Otherwise, the object is said to be at rest with respect to this frame of reference. So it means that when we have a coordinate like this, and this is our reference point, so if the point remains over here, then we can call it a non-moving object or a rest, or the body is at rest. But if it is moving like this or like this, then it is a moving object, right? It is moving with respect to the reference point. This is our reference point R. I can represent it by R. So the choice of set of axes in the frames depends upon the situation. For example, describing motion in 1D, we use only one axis. To describe the motion in 2 or 3D, we need to set of 2 or 3 axes. Description of an event depends on the frame of reference chosen for the description. For example, when you say that the car is moving on a road, you are describing the car with respect to a frame of reference attached to you or to the ground. But with respect to the frame of reference attached with a person sitting in a car, the car is at rest. So what it means is that when you are driving a car, you can't because you don't have license at this age. So when you are driving when you are sitting with your parents and in the car, when this point observes the car, then the car seems to be moving. But when you see your father and your mother, then you will feel that they are at rest. But with respect to this frame of reference, your father, you, and your mother all are moving, right? So frame of reference is God. That only describes motion, is whether a body is at rest or in motion, right? So to describe the motion along a straight line, we can choose axis, say x-axis, so that it can coincide with the path of the object. We then measure the position of the object with respect to the position with reference to a conveniently chosen origin. Say O, like in this has been the reference point taken as okay. What he's telling is that all to the right is positive, all to the left is negative, right? So now follow this convention. The point coordinates of P and Q are plus 360 and plus 240. Similarly, the position coordinate of R is minus 120 meter. So what this is that convention. This is a convention. This we use it, right? So this convention is not compulsory for you to use it. You can use any convention, but general case we use this only, right? When a body is moving in a straight line. So like if they ask you to find the displacement if a body is over here, if they ask to in the question, if you ask in the question aspect, then if the body is moving, if they have given that left, consider left as negative and right as positive, then you can easily calculate. But if they say you that the left is positive and right is negative, then you have to take left side as like this axis will just get rotated. Means the this r point will become plus 120 meter plus 40. This all will become plus. If in the question they ask you that the left side is positive, then these all things will get positive and these all things will get negative, right? And so on. Let us move forward. This path length we will be discussing tomorrow in the second lecture. So see you guys in the second lecture. Bye.